Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, I'm going to talk you through a quick speed clean. This session would be ideal for when you're preparing for guests on short notice, or maybe in a situation where you've kind of procrastinated all day or you've been busy and you want to get those bare minimums done, maybe before your spouse gets home or some other self-imposed deadline like your kids getting home from school or whatever. I'm also going to be talking about managing your energy levels. I'm Ronnie, and you're listening to Clean With Me, the podcast where I walk you through cleaning your house step by step. When you clean along with this show, you'll get more done in less time so you can spend the rest of your day doing what matters most to you. This is going to be a quick speed clean, so I'm going to be giving you prompts as far as which task to be working on, and in between those prompts, I'm going to be talking about managing your energy levels. So even if you don't feel like doing a speed clean right now, I encourage you to listen to the episode because these tips about managing your energy levels could really help you keep up on your housework in the future. So the first thing I want you to do is get your house smelling fresh. That's what we're going to do for these first couple of minutes. To me, the first impression as far as how a house smells is super important. If your house smells good, it's going to seem cleaner as far as sanitary. So it's super important to get your house smelling good. And the way you're going to do that, you're going to take out the trash. Okay. You're also going to either light a candle or put some fresh wax in your wax warmer or get your diffuser going. And then a third thing that you might need to do is deal with any problems in your laundry room. If somebody left some damp towels and a hamper or something like that, there could be a sour smell in the laundry room. Your house is going to be smelling pretty fresh, but sometimes you need to do a little more, and it could be dealing with a rotten load of laundry that you need to rewash with some white vinegar added to the load. Another thing you could do is if you have carpeting, you could sprinkle some Carpet Fresh or whichever brand of sprinkles you like to use. A lot of these products have baking soda with a fresh scent. And we are going to be vacuuming your front room. So if you have carpeting, you can go ahead and do your sprinkles now, if that's a product that you like to use. I don't use it all the time, but sometimes that kind of adds some extra insurance that my house is going to smell good if it's been a while since we've shampooed the carpet. And we do have 2 dogs and a cat. Anyway, I'm going to give you about 1 more minute to get your house smelling good. Again, take out your trash and do at least one other thing to get your house smelling good. Okay. Now, we all know that time management's important, but when you're struggling to keep your house clean, it's not always just a time management issue. It's actually an energy management issue because we all have different energy levels at different times of day. And it's important to recognize that when we are creating our daily routines and just trying to avoid falling behind on housework, like letting dishes pile up and things like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about morning people, afternoon people, and evening people. And by the end of the episode, I hope you'll know which one you are. You might already know, but I think you're going to find some of these examples I give relatable, and it might help you stop beating yourself up and calling yourself lazy. Don't get me wrong, laziness is a thing. We do have to push through and do certain things, and certain things we have to do at times of day where our energy levels are not the highest. But I want to encourage you to do the lion's share of your housework when your energy levels are at their peak. By now, your house is smelling fresh. This is a speed clean, so I want you to try to stay in motion if you're cleaning along today. The next thing I want you to do is straighten your entryway and front room, or whichever room your guests are going to be spending the most time in. First and foremost, you want to clear, that first 10 feet by your front door, of course. But you might have a separate entryway and then a family room or living room further back in your house. Those of you who are regular listeners know that my entryway and living room are one and the same. So for me, during this step, I would be straightening the entryway, which is just a tile area with a piano off to the side. And then I would go on to pick up my entire living room, just a quick pickup. Because if I had a guest over, they would walk in and have a seat on the couch in my front room/living room. Basically, you start at the front door and then you continue removing clutter, starting with things that are on the floor. Okay, you clear that immediate entrance. And then you go in further to the area where your guest is going to be sitting down. Basically, you're focusing on your first impression area and the area in which your guest is going to spend the most time. Always start with picking up any clutter off of the floor. Could be somebody's shoes in the middle of the room. It could be pet toys, children's toys. Clear the floor and then turn your attention upward to the furniture. Clear anything off the couch, maybe a forgotten sweater or even someone's plate, and clear off your end tables, your coffee table. We have just one end table, one coffee table, and a TV stand. And then in the entryway, which is part of our living room, we have an upright piano that sometimes attracts clutter. So once the floor is picked up, I clear off those upper surfaces. You're also going to keep your eye out for any glaring problems on surfaces. This could be a spot on the carpet or couch that you could easily clean with an upholstery spray or some other spot cleaner and a damp rag. Or maybe you have a filthy TV screen. Maybe a toddler or small child has been putting fingerprints on the TV screen, and you need to dust that off, especially if somebody's going to be watching TV. For this episode, I'm taking a break from the little series that I'm doing on episodes geared toward kids and young adults. This is not part of that series. I'm going to resume that in Thursday's episode. And you say, Ronnie, what do you mean Thursday? I thought it was Wednesday. Well, I'm switching things up a little bit, and instead of Monday and Wednesday for the regular episodes, it's going to be Monday and Thursday. That kind of spreads those two episodes out a little bit. And then I'm still going to be releasing bonus episodes on Saturday. Hopefully you're just picking up your entrance and front room while I talk. By the way, if you don't know what bonus episodes are, you can visit cleanwithmepodcast.com and click on support the show, and there will be instructions there for the different ways to support the show financially and unlock those bonus episodes, and it doesn't cost much at all. Okay, now that your front entrance and main living area are picked up, it's time to either vacuum your entrance and the room where your guests will be sitting, or your front room, or sweep and spot mop if you have hard floors. And the reason I say spot mop is this is a speed cleaning episode. Sometimes you can just, with hard floors, you can just go over them with a dust mop, maybe use a regular broom to kind of sweep that stuff into a dustpan. And then if there were any visibly dirty areas on the floor, you can just grab a rag or something or a mop and just spot clean. So while you're vacuuming or sweeping, I'll talk more about energy levels. People tend to be morning people, afternoon people, or evening people, meaning their energy levels are highest. A morning person is more productive in the morning. Now, being a morning person is the easiest because if you get up before everyone and empty your drying rack while you're making coffee, and maybe even pre-cook your dinner, put together a lasagna to pop in the oven later. A lot of people like to kind of get their housework over with, and then they have the rest of the day to do whatever they want. But a lot of people don't become a morning person until they're older. Don't get me wrong. I'm not painting everyone with the same brush. These are just generalities. But, your mom or your grandma probably gets up early and cleans the house. Whereas when you were a teenager, you started wanting to sleep in late and maybe you haven't completely outgrown that yet. And a lot of times people with babies and toddlers tend not to be morning people necessarily as far as doing their cleaning in the morning because they might be struggling to get enough sleep. So that baby might be the alarm clock. And then you don't have any time for yourself before the baby wakes up because you needed to sleep while the baby was sleeping because maybe the baby's up late sometimes or gets up in the middle of the night. It can be a challenge to get up before your baby, and it might not even be a good idea because getting enough sleep helps protect your energy levels. When I was a teenager and young adult, I was not a morning person. I was more of an afternoon person, meaning my energy levels were highest in the afternoon. And that continued when I had a baby. When I had my first baby, my husband was at work and I was at home. And I would wake up early to feed her, that early morning feeding. And then we would both go back to sleep and sleep in kind of late. Then I would just kind of relax and move slowly through my day, taking care of my baby and, not really doing much housework until about 3:30 in the afternoon. And that was the time I would start a certain show and I would clean during the commercials. And my husband got home at a set time. And so that routine worked for me. And of course, some people have to be afternoon cleaners by necessity, kind of for the reason I described. Their baby or toddler or preschooler is their alarm clock. And so they end up doing some housework during that child's afternoon nap. But I definitely used to get a burst of energy in the afternoon. Aside from the whole baby thing, just in general, I was an afternoon person for years. My day would start out slow and then I'd kind of build up momentum as the day progressed. So waiting till the afternoon to clean is not always due to procrastination. Sometimes it's just due to the way your energy levels are. Or maybe you're kind of a late morning person. You start out slow, you're drinking coffee and things like that. And then by late morning, you're ready to do your housework. But I do want you to go easy on yourself during low energy times. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that there are certain things that you have to do at a certain time of day. For example, if you have to take your kids to school or you have to go to work somewhere in the morning, but you're not a morning person, the key is just preparing the night before or the afternoon before. We all know people who kind of prepare something ahead of time to take with them on the go on their way to work. Another big thing is laying out clothes the night before. If you struggle in the mornings to get your kids ready for school, they're missing a shoe at the last minute, or you're struggling to find something to put in their lunch. A lot of times doing things the night before can make it a lot easier on you in the morning. So that's one way to be kind to yourself by making those low energy times easier. Hopefully by now you've got that entryway and sitting room looking good. It's time to head to the kitchen and remove any clutter from the countertops or even the floor. Basically, isolate the mess to the sink area. Move any dirty dishes over to the sink. Place them down in the sink if possible so they're out of sight, and remove clutter from the countertops. And of course, you want to focus on the visible areas first. When I'm expecting company on short notice, we do a pick vac of the living room / entryway, meaning we pick up and vacuum. And then the next thing I do is I clear off the island in the kitchen, and that's because the kitchen island can be seen from the front door. So whichever part of your kitchen counters can be seen from the front door, if any, that's where you would start when clearing off clutter. I like to do things in order of priority in case somebody walks in earlier than expected. So I talked about morning people, late morning people, afternoon people. Of course, there are also those night owls. And sometimes younger people tend to be night owls. I used to call myself a night owl, but I was never one for doing housework at night. I like doing housework late in the afternoon and then staying up late doing whatever, but not necessarily cleaning. But I called myself a night owl. But some people are the type of night owls who actually like to do some housework at night. And these are the people who do their dishes right before bed instead of right after dinner. You know, they get down to dish 0 before bed. And this works if you can do it quietly and other people aren't trying to sleep. You don't want to be banging stuff around. But some people like to load the dishwasher at night because if they're in a small house, it provides white noise and helps people relax and go to sleep. Everyone's routine and situation is different. And even though I'm a morning person, something that I like to do in the afternoon is start preparing for dinner early. I like to be kind to my future self who is a little tired in the evenings and make sure I have something thought out and the ingredients sitting out and maybe even some of the prep work done. And as a morning person, I sometimes like to cook in the morning. The other day, I needed to leave for work at 11 a.m. and I made a lasagna and put it in the fridge. And I also made some bread dough all before leaving for work at 11 o'clock. So that was super nice to my future self because when I get home, my back kind of hurts and I want to lie down and relax. Okay, now that your kitchen's at least under control, the next thing I want you to do is touch up your guest bathroom, whichever bathroom your guests are going to use. I'm not saying you have a dedicated guest bathroom. You might have just one bathroom. And when I'm touching up a bathroom, I just grab any clutter that doesn't belong in there. Maybe a towel that someone dropped on the floor. I make sure that there's no trash around the wastebasket. I make sure that there's a roll of toilet paper. I make sure that there's a clean hand towel hanging up. And then I just go in with either a glass cleaner or a glass and surface spray and some paper towels. And I quickly clean the mirror, the countertop, and maybe the toilet if it needs a touching up. We don't have small children living here, so usually our toilet looks fine in between deep cleans. But if you have little ones, check for drops of pee on the toilet seat or something and clean those off, please. But it really doesn't take long at all to touch up a bathroom. And the reason I said paper towels instead of a microfiber cloth, yes, I usually clean the mirror with a microfiber cloth, but the paper towels you can kind of use on the toilet seat and flush your handle if you want to sanitize your toilet or give your countertop and sink a swipe. Just the paper towels work well in a pinch in a small bathroom. So this whole thing about energy levels being different at different times of day is the reason why sometimes I have episodes where I say morning or evening routine. Now, obviously in a perfect world, you'd have a morning, afternoon, or evening routine and then a bedtime routine. You'd be cleaning at all different times. But that's just not practical for all of us. And some of us would rather do the dishes immediately after dinner and then just go kind of crash and relax for the rest of the evening. Whereas others of us would rather relax and do some other things after dinner and then go back into the kitchen late at night and do the dishes. So following your energy levels can make you more productive. Yes, you have to push yourself to do things you don't want to do. And yes, certain things need to be done at a certain time of a day. Obviously, it's not a good idea to just say, well, I don't like doing anything unless it's morning, so I'm not going to do dishes after dinner or before bed, and I'm just going to let them sit out all night. Obviously, that's not a good idea, but within reason, follow your energy levels. And that way you're working with your body instead of against it. And realize that your peak energy level times can change as you get older or your lifestyle changes. My husband once complained that I waited till the end of the day to clean and he could tell because the table was wet. Well, if that's how your energy levels work, just dry the table and nobody will know you did it at the last minute. He's a lot more laid back now. I don't know why I didn't dry the table because what he didn't know wouldn't have hurt him. And I realize that in most episodes, I encourage you to do certain things in the morning because we all tend to promote whatever we're into and whatever works for us. And I feel like what I do is based on years of experience and trial and error. But I also recognize that part of the reason I do things at certain times is because I am older and I'm a morning person. In general, morning people would rather clean up right after dinner than right before bed because they're really tired in the evenings. And if you're an afternoon person, yes, you're still going to need to clean up after dinner or before bed, but you can do the lion's share of your housework during the afternoon. We're going to spend the last couple of minutes in the kitchen, and you probably already have a sponge by the sink or a clean dish rag ready, but if you're expecting company, also make sure you have a dry kitchen towel or some paper towels ready for drying your hands afterward. I don't know about you, but I don't like it to look like I was scrambling to clean before the person arrived. I always want to create the illusion that my house is always this under control. And especially if I didn't get it as clean as I wanted to, I don't want to look like I had to work to get to this level of mediocrity. But when someone comes to the door and hugs you or shakes your hand or whatever, you don't want to have a wet hand. Like, oh, sorry, I was doing dishes. I like to dry my hands when I get that knock at the door. I don't want my hand to be the equivalent of a wet table. In general, we all like to clean the house before someone gets home, and we want to look productive and actually be productive. And that's kind of what this episode is about. Getting your house under control fast and also evaluating what you're doing to see whether it fits with your peak energy level times and managing your energy levels efficiently. Because not only do we have to manage our time efficiently, we have to manage our energy levels efficiently, and the two go hand in hand. So for the last few minutes of the episode, just be working on dishes. You've straightened your front entrance and the sitting room where your guests are going to be, or just the first impression area of your home. You've cleared off your countertops and hopefully given them a swipe. I didn't really mention that, but after you clear clutter, definitely at least spot clean your countertops if there are any messes. It's not the end of the world if you have a sink full of dishes when someone comes over, especially when the house smells great, it's free of clutter. Obviously, people live at your house, and having a sink full of dishes is not out of the ordinary unless you're of the school of thought that things go straight into the dishwasher and you wash them immediately. And those are great aspirations, but sometimes we find ourselves with a sink full of dishes, and it's better than a countertop full of dirty dishes. I'm even okay with you stashing your dirty dishes in the cupboard immediately under your sink in a dishpan. It's an emergency measure if you want to get those out of sight. If you have a judgmental mother-in-law, by all means, stash them. But if you still have more time left, be washing those dishes. Whether you need to do an empty reload and run of the dishwasher or hand wash some stuff, just get those dishes done or partially done. I've even been known to have one of my kids sit on the couch and kind of keep their eye out for the visitor to pull up. Obviously, I'm pulling from past experience and worst case scenarios. But I've been known to have a kid just kind of watch the window. And I'm not talking about holding the blinds open and peering out. I'm talking about discreetly sitting on the couch, looking out toward the street. And there have been times where I was wearing headphones and I've said, when you see them, just come tap me on the shoulder. Because I don't want them to scream, "They're here!" so loudly that somebody walking up hears it. I'm not saying that your life is about impressing other people or whatever, but we're all human and we all want to put our best foot forward in certain situations, and especially with certain guests. So hopefully most of your dishes are done, and if you get a tap on the shoulder or you hear a "they're here," you can dry your hands and head over to the couch. Sit down for a second until the doorbell rings. And for those of you who are excited about the series of episodes geared toward kids, again, Thursday's episode is going to be one of those types of episodes. Special thanks to my financial supporters who support the show either through an Apple Podcast subscription, Patreon, which you can access either directly through the Patreon app or website, or through Spotify. But even just listening to the show helps. So don't forget to click follow or the plus sign or subscribe on whichever app you listen on so that you don't miss the next episode. And as always, happy cleaning. I'll talk to you soon.